All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Let's begin. Beautiful daf ahead of us today. Today's daf is Yud Daled 14. We are picking up Yud Gimel Amud Beis 13b, 3 lines up from the bottom. Lema Kitanoi. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Ayala and Sarah Steinberg in memory, commemoration of the upcoming yard site of Ayala's mother, Elia Daphna Bas Yosef. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah and Shmuel will have an aliyah and the family a nechama. So I will say, let's begin. Remember, we left off yesterday with the really riveting sugya regarding whether or not tvilas etzba is mifageles bechatos. Right? Remember again, specifically the chatos pnimis, the inner chatos is offered. The blood application is done not by throwing the blood with a kli, but rather again the kohen dips his hand in the blood and puts it on the mizbeach. So the question we were asking Rabbi is as follows: what we established in the previous Mishnah is what? Is that an erroneous or wrong machshava in any of the four blood avodos, shchita, kabbalah, holacha, and zrika, will go ahead and invalidate the carbon. The shaila we were dealing with now is what about tvilas espa? What about when the kohen dips his finger in the blood? If you were to have a wrongful mindset, let's say, for example, you were to have in mind that he's going to consume the carbon after the prescribed time, or do zrika after the prescribed time, does an invalid machshava at the time of the dipping of the finger invalidate the carbon? So we'll say what the shaila really is the dipping of the finger considered to be an avoda or not? So the Gemara says, Lima Kitanoi. Let's say that this is a machlokes tanoi. The Tani Chada, one Brisa says, one Mishnah says, Tvilas etzba mifageles bechatos. So we'll say there seems to be an explicit Mishnah that says that Tvilas etzba, that when you immerse when the kohen immerses his finger into the blood, if he has a wrong mindset, that can make the carbon pigul. The Tanya idach lo mifageles velo mispageles. And we'll say second Mishnah says, no, it doesn't render the carbon pigul. Nor Rabbi say can Tvilas etzba be the subject of pigul as well. What does it mean be the subject of pigul? So Rabbi say, remember again, for argument's sake, if somebody during the shchita were to have in mind that they're going to do the tvilas etzba, right, in 2 days from now, that also would not go ahead and create a pigul situation. So in other words, so you can't create pigul through an erroneous mindset when doing the tvilas etzba, and the tvilas etzba itself cannot be the subject of a pigul machshava. So my love Tanaihi. So we'll say, so this would seem to be what's the machlokes over here? So by pashtos the machlokes is Rabbi say is whether or not tvilas etzba is a form of avoda, and therefore again can make the carbon pigul. One opinion says it is, one opinion says it's not. To which the Gemara says, lo, harabanan Rabbi Shimon. No, in fact, that's not the case. In fact, Rabbi say these two opinions represent two other opinions, the opinions of the Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi say, Rabbi Shimon from where? Oh, Rabbi Shimon from our Mishnah. What does Rabbi Shimon from our Mishnah say? Look at last Rashi. We'll say, lo, d'chule alma holochihi. But remember in yesterday's daf, what we established is that tvilas etzba, the dipping of the finger the kohen dipping of his finger in the blood of the chatas pnimis could essentially be the equivalent of holacha, of transporting the blood. So Rashi is d'chule alma holachihi. Everyone agrees that tvilas etzba has the status of holacha. And so what about the opinion who says that it does not create pigul? Rabbi Shimon he dar masnisin holacha lo mefaglo kidisnaim Rabbi Shimon machshe behiloch. Rabbi say, oh, that affects the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. But remember back to the Mishnah, there's a whole machlokes whether or not holacha has the ability to create pigul or not. In other words, I will say that if someone has erroneous mindset, kohen has erroneous mindset during holacha, does that make the carbon pigul or not? That was the subject of a machlokes in the Mishnah. The Rabbanan say yes. Rabbi Shimon says no. Remember again, why does Rabbi Shimon say no? Oh, excellent. Because Rabbi Shimon says any avoda, which is a non-necessity, does not create a pigul situation. Since technically speaking, you could avoid holacha. How can you avoid holacha? Shecht the carbon right next to the mizbeach. Then ultimately you don't need halacha. So the Gemara suggests to Rabbi say, no, everyone agrees that tvilas etzba is the equivalent of halacha. What's the machlokes over here? The machlokes is the same machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanon as to whether or not halacha is considered to be an avoda, which could create a pigul scenario. So the Gemara says, one second, Rabbi Shimon, my area tvilas etzba. If it's Rabbi Shimon, then why are you bringing up the case of tvilas etzba? Ha'amar top of Yudalid. Ha'amar kol she'eno amizbeach hachitzon kishlamim Ein ba mishum pigel. Remember, Rabbi Shimon is of the opinion, Rabbi, that anything that does not occur on the outside mizbeach like shlamim cannot create a pigel situation. Right? Remember again, this goes back to yesterday's daf that shlamim seems to be the source for the halach. Not seems to be, is the source for the halachos of pigel. If that's the case, Rabbi, then it could be according to Rabbi Shimon. L'maisa blood applications of the chatas penimis, of course, cannot go ahead and create pigel because they are too dissimilar to the shlamim themselves. Rather, both mishnayos that we quoted the opinion of the Rabbanan, v'lo kashya, and it's not a contradiction. Kan bechatos hachitzonos, kan bechatos hapnimios. And I will say again, it's not a kasha. Why? Because one is talking about the chatos chitzonos, one is talking about the outer chatos, and one is talking about an inner chatos. So we'll say, take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Chatos hachitzonos, third line down from the top in Rashi. Eina mefagelas. So we'll say, listen to this. If you go ahead and you have the wrong mindset, when you dip your finger in the blood by the chatas chitzona, that doesn't create pigel. If the kohen has the wrong mindset, when he goes ahead and he dips his finger in the blood for the chatas penimis, that does create pigel. The Gemara says, 1 second, chatas chitzonos. So you're telling me now that when the kohen dips his finger in the blood for the chatas chitzona, the outer chatas, which means the chatas whose blood is poured on the outer mizbeach, that doesn't create pigel, pshita, that's obvious. Why? Lo ksiv behu v'taval. I will say, remember again, there is no din of dipping your finger in the blood by the outer chatos. The concept of dipping a finger in the blood only applies, I will say, to which chatos? To the chatos hapnimi, to the inner chatos. Doesn't apply to the outer chatos. I will say, if there's no din of the kohen dipping his finger in the blood of the chatos chitzona. Therefore, if he does it for the chatas chitzona and has in mind to eat the carbon 2 days later, of course it doesn't create pigel. Why not? Because it's not navod. Also, remember again, we've already established that you could only create pigel with what? If you have the erroneous mindset during some part of the avoda, which is ma'akev, which is a necessity. But if you have an erroneous mindset during a non-essential part of the avoda, that does not create pigel. To which the Gemara says, I tell you, it's drich. You still need it, and I'll tell you why. I would have thought, so we'll say, listen to this. Since the pasuk says v'lokach, remember again, this is v'lokach hakoy midam chachatos be'etzba'o v'nasan al karnos mizbach ha'ola ve'estamoshas. So we'll say the pasuk over here says the kohen has to take from the blood v'asikof ramiluhu ayadei. Therefore, I will say, if a monkey were to come and to go ahead and take the blood and put it into the hands of the kohen, we'll say, what will be the halacha? The kohen would have to go back and take it again. Why? Because I will say the blood application demands the actions, the taking of the blood by the kohen. Therefore, I will say, since even though again it says velaka, so since we know that the halacha is that the kohen has to take the blood himself. So therefore, again, in Vaharaya, if a monkey were to come and place the blood in his hand, he would need to retake it himself. It's as if the pasuk said v'taval, that the kohen must immerse his finger into the blood. So the Gemara says, therefore the Gemara says, but the pasuk intentionally does not write v'taval, it writes instead v'lokach, in order that you can learn out both of these particular lessons. Which lessons? Take a look at Rashi Rabbi saying, Lo kasvei tvila, behedje ela kasav kabbalah, umid samche ha'etzbo, v'nasanhu, diyalif litbol etzbo, shetzarach likach ba'atzmo, v'litbol demash mahachi delotei tvilas etzba avoda chashuva bahen lefagel, midalo ach shiva kra lahatzricha beferish, umash mahachi setzricha hi litbol kechata sachitzona, v'lo lishkol kof, so listen to this. We end up learning out two halachas, ultimately again from this lashon. Halacha number one, I will say, is that tvilas etzbas ena mefagelas. That at the end of the day, the putting of the kohen's finger into the damachatas is not an avoda, and therefore again does not create pigul. But what it also teaches us is that the kohen must draw out the blood himself. That is both by the chatas chitzon as well as the chatas pnimis. The blood must be taken through the koach of the kohen. Therefore, if a monkey, we're going to just use the monkey as an example, were to come and to place the blood into the hands of the kohen, ultimately, again, the kohen would have to retake the blood himself. So we'll say, what is the halacha l'maisa in this? Because it's actually an interesting halacha to think about in terms of, is the tefillas etzba a form of avoda or not, and therefore does it create pigul or not? So we'll say, listen to this. So the Rambam in Psulei HaMikdashin, this is in Parak Yud Zayin Halacha Gimel. Listen to this. Parak Yud Zayin Halacha Gimel. Tvilas etzba b'dam bechatos hapnimios mifagelas. We'll say the Rambam paskins that. Now remember again, we're talking about the chatas hapnimis. Only a chatas that is offered up, the blood is applied on the inner mizbeach. That really only occurs on Yom Kippur, chatas hapnimis. So we'll say, so the Rambam says as follows, that if a Kohen has the wrong mindset, when he dips his finger into the blood of the chatas, mifagelas. Ultimately, again, I will say, what does that mean? What does it tell you? So he could create pigul. What does that tell you? That tells you that the hand putting the finger in the blood is what? Is a form of avoda. Ketzad chashav b'shas tvilas etzba b'dam machsheves hazman harizek mechashav b'shas hazia. So we'll say, interestingly enough, the Rambam says, see, the Gemara's Havamina is that placement of the finger in the blood is like holacha. The Rambam says, no, it's not really like holacha, it's more like sprinkling, like hazia. It's like the sprinkling of the blood. So therefore, that's how the Rambam paskins halacha l'maisa. So the placement of the finger in the blood, tvilas etzba, is considered to be like an avoda, and therefore again can create pigul. Good. Rabbi Shimon So also remember again, Rabbi Shimon in the Mishnah said that if you have a wrong kavana during what? During holacha, that does not invalidate the karban. Right? Why? Because we'll say again, Rabbi Shimon says any avoda which is not essential, does not invalidate the karban. Amar Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Moder Rabbi Shimon b'holachas chatos hapnimios shemachshava posalas behu. Also listen to this. So Rabbi Shimon says, but however, with inner chatos, right, chatos offered up inside the Beis Hamikdash, Rabbi Shimon will agree that if you have an erroneous mindset, ultimately again during the holacha, that it will passel it. Why? Hoyil va'avoda shein yochel levatla. See, I was saying, here's the issue. Holacha sometimes is an indispensable part of the sacrificial service. When it's inside. When you have a karban whose blood needs to be applied on the inside, by definition, holacha is a necessity. Why? Because where does shechita take place? Shechita takes place on the outside, meaning in the courtyard of the courtyard. Well, not really in the courtyard. It really takes place in the inner courtyard by the large altar, but it's outside of what we call the Beis Hamikdash proper. So because of that, by definition, you can't escape the need to go ahead and transport the karban. So in that case, Rabbi say, where holacha is an indispensable part of the sacrificial service, even Rabbi Shimon will agree that an erroneous mindset will compromise the karban. Rabbi Shimon, but one second, Rabbi Shimon said that anything Rabbi say that what is not done on the mizbeach hachitzon like shlamim, you can't become pigul. In other words, Rabbi Shimon is of the opinion, as we said already a number of times, that pigul is learned out from shlamim. Therefore, whatever could happen by shlamim could render a carbon pigul. But if it can't happen by shlamim, then what? It cannot render the carbon pigul. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, mod haya lipsul. So also you're right. Rabbi, even in case Rabbi Shimon says that halacha l'maisa the carbon can't become pigul, he will agree that the carbon will become pasul, which is quite interesting. So Rabbi Shimon says even in cases where it doesn't satisfy the halachic criteria to become pigul, it could still become invalidated. So what's the kavachomer? Umashalo lishman shuk shru b'shlamim pasul b'chatos. But say if a carbon is offered up shalo lishma, so remember again, shlamim that is offered up shalo lishma is absolutely kosher. But yet again, will be pasul by chatos. Chutz lizmano. Therefore, I will say, if someone does part of the sacrificial service and has in mind to consume or to do something outside of the prescribed time, sheposel b'shlamim, which I will say will invalidate shlamim. Ein odin sheyivsel b'chatos. Certainly, it should pasul a chatos as well. Therefore, again, I will say, at the end of the day, Rabbi Shimon will say, based on the kavachomer, even if the chatas hapanimis can't become technical pigul, because something is being done to it that is not done to shlamim, it could still become pasul. So I understand now, if you're doing part of the sacrificial service and you have an erroneous mindset to consume or to do some other part of the avoda outside of the prescribed time, chutz limkomo minalon. We'll say, how do I know that if I have in mind during some part of the sacrificial service to go ahead and do something to the carbon outside of the prescribed area, how do I know that ultimately, again, that compromises the carbon as well? So the Gemara says, "Imi chutz lizmano." So if you want to learn it out from chutz lizmano, from kavana, to do something outside of the prescribed time, then malo chutz lizmano shekein kares. We'll say ultimately, again, that carries with it a penalty of kares. Imi shelo lishma. If you want to learn it out from shelo lishma, shekein noheg babama. Now, we'll say, now here the Gemara just says something quite interesting. Well, in the cases of shelo lishma, we'll say that applies in situations of bama as well. Now, what does that mean? Take a look at the last short line of Rashi. Rashi says, "Shekinoi bebama bekarban bamas yochid b'shas heter habamas sharishinoi kodeshu tomar b'chutz l'mkomo delo she'in mechitza bebama v'chala beka mekomo ad sofon." So listen to this. So we're going to see in just a moment. We'll say bama is a personal altar. So remember again, once the Beis Hamikdash was built, so there is an Isser Bamos. What happens also in between the first and second Batei Mikdash? There's also an Isser Bamos. Also between the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash is a whole entire discussion. So the Gemara just says over here, we're gonna explain this in just a moment. In the case Imishol Lishma, if you want to learn it out from the Karbanos, which ultimately again could be offered up Shalol Lishma, the problem is Shekein Noig Babama. We'll say those karbanos could technically be offered up in Agbama, as we'll see. So the Gemara says, Shalol Lishman Bimai. So the Gemara says, what are we talking about? Excuse me. I just lost the place here. If Shalol Lishman Shekein Noig Babamas. Chiyuv Shalol Lishman Bimai Noig, the Pesach V'chatos. Pesach V'chatos Bebama Lo Kirva. We'll say, here's the problem. You wanted to bring a raya ultimately again from the karbanos that are offered up shalol lishma. What are the karbanos which could be offered up shalol lishma and still be kosher? We'll say that applies to all karbanos except for what? Pesach and Chatas. But Pesach and Chatas themselves cannot be offered up on the bama. Therefore, we'll say the kal v'chomer doesn't work. V'bay sema. The other possibility is hekeshu. We'll say learn out from a hekesh. What's the hekesh? Shlishi zu chutz lizmano. So we'll say, remember again, shlishi. This is quoted from the pasuk. Shlishi, bayom shlishi, the third, that refers to someone who offers up the carbon with the intention to go ahead and do something, either consume it or do some other part of the avoda outside of the prescribed time. Pigul, when the pasuk says pigul, chutz limkomo. So that ultimately again refers to someone who has intention to do something to the carbon outside of what? Outside of the prescribed area. Amarava imtim silomar. Amarava imtim silomar Rabbi Shimon savala kibrei. Maybe you'll want to say as follows. Maybe I will say Rabbi Shimon holds like his son. What does his son hold? The Amar bein ha'ulam v'lamizbeach tzafon ein machshava mo'eles ba'olachos chatos ha'penimios. So actually, let me break that up. The Gemara says as follows. Bein ha'ulam v'lamizbeach tzafon. Well, so listen to this. This is actually quite interesting. If you take a look at Rashi, Rashi's bein ha'ulam v'lamizbeach tzafon. It's 2, 4, 5 lines down in the wide lines of Rashi. Bein ha'ulam v'lamizbeach tzafon. Rashi says, "Chilek tzefoni shebe'azara shebeina ulam v'lamizbeach af agav de lo karinon bei al yerech hamizbeach tzafona tabe ma'aravo shel mizbeachu havit tzafon le'inyan shchitas kachei kedoshim." We'll say, so this is actually very interesting. The halacha is that many of the kavanos need to be shechted and blood applications take place or shechted on the northern part of the mizbeach, on the northern side. So we'll say, so interestingly enough, there's a shita the son of Rabbi Shimon holds. So we'll say what that would mean is you'd be shechting the carbon in front of the mizbeach. So the mizbeach would be in front of you, and then ultimately there'd be a space, and then there'd be entry into the Beis Hamikdash. So interestingly enough, the Gemara suggests over here that there's another opinion that holds you can satisfy the north requirement even if you shecht in between the mizbeach and the ulam. So watch this. So therefore, according to that, Ein machshava mo'eles ba'olachos chatos ha'penimios ela mi pesach ulam v'lifnin. Therefore, we'll say if you go with this logic, which means you could potentially shecht right next to the entranceway of the Beis Hamikdash and still go ahead and satisfy the halachic criteria. And if that's the case, Rabbosai, machshava, which in this case means an erroneous mindset, will not compromise anything ba'olachos chatos, meaning will not compromise anything by a chatos, except what? From the entranceway of the ulam and in. Vimtim salomar savalak Rabbi Yehuda. And if you want to say that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar toch azara mikdash in machshava mo'eles. right? So the Gemara says Ba'olach in Mo'eles. So we'll say the Gemara says, and if you want to say that he holds like Rabbi Huda, that would inside the Azora in Machshava Mo'eles. If that's the case, the Gemara says Ba'olachos siluk bazichin ela mi pesach heichal luchutz. So we'll say, remember again, the Gemara now brings up another case, which is what siluk bazichin. We'll say, what's siluk bazichin? Remember with the lechem hapanim. So the halacha was you had the 12 loaves, but you also had these spoons of. They translate lavona as frankincense. So we'll say the halacha was as follows. Remember when was lechem hapanim consumed? It was consumed when they switched shifts on Shabbos. So that in order, so you came on shift on Shabbos, you went from a Sunday to a Shabbos. Then when you went off shift, you got all of the loaves of that week. But as you got all of the loaves of that week, what happened? The spoons of Lavona were taken and burned on the Mizbeach. So we'll say, so the Gemara says, Siluk Bazich, and we'll say, so Siluk Bazich means the removal of the spoons. The removal of the spoons. Siluk Bazich, Elami Pesach, Heichal Ulachutz. We'll say, ultimately, again, would only cause a problem if what? If a person had an erroneous machshava, only from outside of the Beis Hamikdash, meaning when we say outside of the Beis Hamikdash, I mean outside of the temple structure proper. Bintim Salomar, Savar Kedushas Heichal Ulam Chadehi. Maybe you'll say ultimately that what the kedusha of the Heichal and the Ulam are one. Remember again, the Beis Hamikdash itself, the basement structure was like a T, right? The front end of it, which was the top of the T, the longer part, that's called the Ulam. Right, and then that sat like on a perpendicular fashion to the rest of the Beis Hamikdash, which then housed the menorah, the shulchan, the mizbeach, the kodesh hakadoshim. So the Gemara says, if you want to say that ultimately again kedusha seichel v'ulam is one kedusha, in machshava mo'eles ela mi pesach ulam ulachutz. Then ultimately what? A wrongful machshava will only work from the entranceway of the ulam and outside, because the ulam and the kodesh share the same kedusha. V'imtim salomar. Tocha Pesach kilifnim, and if you want to say ultimately again that inside Tocha Pesach, inside the opening is the equivalent of inside the Beis Hamikdash proper. In Machshava Mo'eles, afilu psiachos. Ultimately, again, if that's the case, then a wrongful Machshava will not go ahead and help, even with one step. Ella bichteho shatas yodo, unless of course again he extends his hand. V'imtim salomar savra halacha shelo beregel lo shma halacha. And I will say if you hold that, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, that halacha shelo beregel, which I will say means again that if a kohen moves but not by walking, is not considered to be halacha, the ein machshava mo'eles klal. So I will say ultimately again, so a wrongful machshava will not have any kind of compromise, or will not compromise it at all. So we'll say, okay, what exactly do we take from this entire sugya? So we'll say, remember again, we're recording over here the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon is of the opinion that halacha l'maisa, holacha does not go ahead and compromise a carbon. In other words, if you have an erroneous machshava during holacha, it does not at all compromise. It does not at all compromise the avoda. So we'll say, just to understand, the bottom line halacha is not like Rabbi Shimon. We paskin that what? We paskin that halacha l'maisa holacha, being one of the avodos, absolutely goes ahead and compromises the carbon. Whether with a machshava shel l'shma, whether a machshava ultimately with pigul, but an erroneous machshava by halacha will compromise the carbon. Good. The Gemara goes weiter. Amar li Abaye la'amorei Rav Chisda. By name Rav Chisda. Holacha bezar mahu. What's an interesting question? What happens if a non-kohen does holacha? How does a non-kohen does holacha? So we'll say Amar li Kshera. So listen to this. We'll say so the Rav Chisda said it's kosher. Rav Chisda said it's kosher. So it's actually a very dramatic statement, right? That if a non-kohen does holacha, the holacha is kosher. And Rav Chisda, I'm going to tell you, umikram sayeni, I can bring you a pasuk to prove it. Vayishchetu es Pesach, they shechted the Pesach. Rabbi says from Dirayam, they shechted the Korban Pesach. Vayizerku hakohanim es hadam miadam, excuse me. Va'aleviyim mafshitim. So it's actually an interesting pasuk. So the pasuk says the Kohanim sprinkled the blood from their hands, and the Leviyim literally flayed the carbon. Rabbi says now the diuk over here is as follows. Look at Rashi. That's Rashi on the daf. Vayizerku hakohanim es hadam miadam shel shochtin mashma v'shochtin zarin ninu. So we'll say the way it sounds like over here is as follows. Who is shechting? The Kohanim, the first time the Kohanim are introduced to this process, we'll say is when? By the sprinkling of the blood. So we know who shechted the carbon. Yisraelim, because remember again, a zar, non-kohen is permitted to shecht. V'shoktim zarnin, v'ashminu krasha azar, mlochim asadam is oso miyad mekabel, u'molichin oso lizrok. So we'll say, what this sounds like is as follows. What this sounds like over here is that the Yisraelim shechted, right? There was probably a kohen who did the Kabbalah Saddam, and then what happens? The Yisraelim took the blood to the kohen to do zrika, which was effectively means what? That the kohanim went ahead and, that a Yisrael did holacha. So Rav Chisda says, you see from here, that holacha is ksheira bizar. Massive Rav Sheish says, whoa, 1 second, what are you talking about? We learned zar, we'll say zar is a non-kohen. Onain, we'll say onain is a person in the state of mourning, in between the period of death and burial. Top of your dalan days. Shikr, we'll say, so Rashi says, shtu yayin. Right, ultimately is someone who drinks wine. And we'll say it's interesting. Tosas has a whole discussion over here as to whether or not it's only wine or other intoxicating beverages as well. Okay, shikr, balmum. We'll say balmum is a kohen who's simply invalid to serve. So what's the halacha? B'kabbalah, b'holacha, b'zrika, pasal. We'll say essentially again, any of these people are not permitted to do anything from shchita and on. So you can do shchita, but not kabbalah, holacha, and zrika. So v'chein yoshev. And similarly again, if a person is sitting at the time, we'll discuss what this means. This sounds like, we'll see what Yoshe means. If you're sitting, v'chein small. And similarly, again, if you do any of these things with your left hand, all of these things are both say are possible. So we'll say, what do you see from here? What do you see from here? You see that holacha is psula, bizarre. That if a non-kohen transports the blood, the sacrificial blood, that invalidates the karban. To which the Gemara says, tiyufta, you're right. Rav Chisda is wrong, Rabbosai, and holacha bizarre will be aser. I bahar Rav Chisda kraka amar. But 1 second, but Rav Chisda quotes a pasuk. We'll say the pasuk does seem to indicate that halacha l'maisa that it was Yisrael who was transporting the blood. So it does seem to be Yisrael. To which the Gemara says, "Da'avid ma'ase itztava." We'll say this is actually very interesting. The case is where the Yisrael was like a platform. We'll say, what does that mean? Take a look at the top Rashi. Ma'ase itztava, omdim bimkoman hazar, eitzel hakohen hamakabel, va'kohenos nolo va'ochso ad sheba zorik v'not lo miyado, ve'in hazar mikarvan l'tzad ha'mizbeach lo ba'olach asragel, v'lo ba'oshatas yad, ela ke'itztava zu shemanichin kliyada. We'll say this is amazing. What's the case of a Yisrael who's involved? It's where the Kohen will say, imagine the following scene. Someone does shchita, the Kohen does Kabbalah, and then what happens? The Kohen says to the Yisrael, what? Hold this. Hold this. The Yisrael holds it. Kohen does whatever he needs to do. Comes back, gets the blood, takes it to do the zrika. But in a case like that, the involvement of the Zar does not go ahead and invalidate the sacrificial process. Why? Because as long as the Yisrael is standing still, Ma'aseh Itztava means he's essentially acting like a platform. He's acting he's just holding the kli. In a case where he's holding the kli and not bringing it any closer to the mizbeach, therefore again he is not involved in any real part of the sacrificial process. The fact that he holds the kli in between Kabbalah and holacha and zrika does not in any way invalidate the karban. Very interesting. So you could have a situation literally where you have Yisrael involved there in the middle, but because as long as he does not move, meaning as long as he does not transport that blood, then lemaisa again his involvement does not invalidate the karban. Quite amazing. So the Rabbi Rav Yosef holacha bezar machlokes Rabbi Shimon Rabbanan. Both say it's actually very interesting. Rabbi and Rav Yosef say actually whether or not a zar could do holacha is a machlokes Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan. Rabbi Shimon the Amar avoda shef shalavat lo lav avoda hi ksheira bezar. Both listen to this. So Rabbi Shimon, both say remember again everything comes out to Rabbi Shimon. What did Rabbi Shimon say? If you have a machshava shelo l'shma, let's say by the holacha of a chatos, it does that invalidate the karban according to Rabbi Shimon? And the answer is no. Why? Because Rabbi Shimon says avoda holacha is not an indispensable part of the avoda. Why? As we said many times, because technically you could check the karban close enough to the mizbeach that it need not be transported. Therefore, again, halacha l'maisa, it's not. So therefore, the Gemara suggests, according to Rabbi Shimon, who says that holacha is not an indispensable part of the sacrificial service. Therefore, essentially, what? It's not an avoda. And if it's not an avoda, then what? It's ksheira bizar. But But according to the Rabbanan Psula. But Rabbi said, according to the Rabbanan, who say no, that holacha, if you have machshava shlo l'shma or machshavas pigul, that ultimately that doesn't validate the carbon. That tells you what? That halacha, Rabbi say, is a form of is a part of the avoda, and therefore what? It cannot be kosher bizarre, cannot be done by a non-kohen. Amar le Abaye, v'ashchita da avoda shief shlevatla. But 1 second, shchita is an avoda shief shlevatla. We'll say, right? Shchita is an indispensable part of the carbonic process. Yet what? Ukshira bizarre. It is kosher by a kohen. So we'll say, what the Gemara is suggesting over here is, you see there is a precedent for something being an indispensable part of a sacrificial service, yet what? Still being able to be done by a non-kohen. So the Gemara says, shchita lav avodi. No. Shchita is not an avoda. Shchita might be an essential part of the sacrificial process, but it's not part of the avoda. The Gemara says, what? Velo? Vam Rabbi Zera Amarav, shchitas para bizar psula. Here, Rabbi say, what do we learn? The shchita, the one time, Rabbi say, where a non-kohen cannot do shchita by something of a sacrificial nature is by paraduma. Paraduma has to be shechted by the kohen. So what do you see? I will say, what do you see from there? So you see from there that shchita isn't avoda, right? That shchita isn't avoda. V'haraya, there are times when shchita can only be done by a kohen. Granted, this is not the normative halacha, but I will say, once you find a case where ultimately again shchita could only be done by a kohen, that tells you that's an avoda. So we'll say, once it's an avoda, then by regular karbanos, shchita can be done by a kohen. If that's the case, you find precedent for an indispensable part of the carbonic process being done by a non-kohen, and if that's the case, I will say, then what? Then halacha l'maisa, even if something else is an avoda, who's to say that ultimately again it can't be done by a non-kohen as well? To which the Gemara says, 1 second, let's take paraduma off the table, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I will say, by paraduma, the pasuk goes ahead and dafka says Elazar and Chukah. In other words, it says, dafka says that the paraduma must be done by the kohen. I will say, now what the Gemara is suggesting over here is as follows. Remember, Torah goes out of its way to articulate that paraduma must be done by the kohen. To which the Gemara says, shiny para. Paraduma is different, and I'll tell you why. The kodshe bedek habayisi. I will say, this is very interesting. Remember, paraduma, I will say, is not a carbon. It's not a carbon. It doesn't have kidushas haguf. Remember again, where is paraduma burned? Where is it burned? Outside of the Beis Hamikdash. We'll say, remember again, under normal circumstances, if you take a sacrificial item and burn it outside of the Beis Hamikdash, we'll say, what? You've got a big problem on your hands, right? It's called kares, right? Pretty serious offense to burn sacrifices outside of the confines of the Beis Hamikdash. Para aduma is dafka burned outside of the Beis Hamikdash. As such, says the Gemara, it's not a carbon. It's what's called what? It's kedusha. It's kedusha. I will say is not sacrificial kedusha. Interestingly enough, it's vested with financial kedusha. What do we call bedek habayis kedusha? So the Gemara says valav kol dechenu. Now again, I can make a kal v'chomer from that. What's the kal v'chomer? Kodshe bedek habayis si avya. So the Gemara says kodshe mizbeach lav avodehi. So also what I would say is as follows: If ultimately again the shchita of a para aduma is an avoda and has to be done by a kohen, and it's not even sacrificial in nature, then what? All the more so, the shchita of a regular carbon avosai, which is kachim, certainly should be called an avoda. To which the Gemara says, Amar Rav Shisha Breid Rav Idi, Midi dehava amaros negoim, delav avodahi ubaya kuhuna. So also if Shisha comes along and says, but what about maros negoim? We'll say, remember again, last week's parasha. So what's the halacha? By maros negoim, we'll say, who is the only one who's permitted to rule on saras? Is a kohen. So we'll say, what do you see from here? You see from here that just because something requires a kohen doesn't automatically make it what? Doesn't automatically make it an avoda. So something could require a kohen, but lav dafka be avoda in nature. I v'hari holacha sevarim lekevesh the avoda shef shelavatli upsula bizar. We'll say 1 second. But yeah, what about holacha sevarim? We'll say holacha sevarim means the taking of the sacrificial limbs up to the top of the mizbeach. So we'll say, so halacha l'maisa again, that is an avoda. That is an avoda. The ef shalavatla, we'll say now, why is that ef shalavatla? Rashi says, It's actually right across in Rashi. Because Rabbi say, technically speaking, you can do all of this right next to the mizbeach itself. So yet again, it is an avoda which you can be mavatal. Yet upsula bizar. Yet Rabbi say again, it is pasul bizar. In other words, a non-kohen cannot do that. Dichsiv vikriva kohen esakol vihiktir hamizbecha va'amarmar zu holochas evarim lekevesh. We'll say ultimately again, that says that what? So the Gemara Darshan, the Kohen will offer up everything, vehiktir hamizbecha, and ultimately what? He will go ahead and offer it up on the mizbeach. V'amarmar zu holochas evarim lekevesh, and we see from here that what? That ultimately again is the bringing of the limbs to the top of the ramp. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Heicha de gali gali, veicha de lo gali lo gali. We'll say to which the Gemara answers interesting enough. Look at Rashi. Heicha de gali gali, holacha seivarim de gali bahen kohen boginan kohen. Because wherever the Torah goes out of its way to explicitly articulate that the particular avodah requires a kohen, so it requires a kohen. Aval holachas hadam de lo gali bahu kohen. The Rabbi Shimon the Evshalavat lo by kohen. We'll say wherever the Torah does not require a kohen, at least according to Rabbi Shimon, ultimately again, you don't require a kohen. So we'll say, remember, let's just keep our eye on the ball over. We're trying to figure out over here in this particular sugya, we'll say, is what? Is a non-kohen permitted to do holacha? That's the fundamental question we're dealing with over here. We wanted to suggest that halacha l'maisa, this is a machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan. According to Rabbi Shimon, who says that what? That holacha is a dispensable part of the avodah. Therefore, it's not really an avodah. Therefore, it should be kshira bizar. According to the Rabbanan, ultimately, again, because it's an indispensable part of the avodah, therefore what? Therefore what? It should be pasul bizar. So we'll say, what the Gemara wanted to suggest is the following. But yet, we find a precedent to see that what? You can have an avodah that's an indispensable part of the avodah, yet what? It is kshira bizar. What's the example of that? Shchita. So we'll say, now we're just trying to figure out what requires a kohen, what doesn't require a kohen. So the Gemara now is suggesting that in Rabbi Shimon's model, any time that the Torah explicitly says you need a kohen, you need a kohen. But if the Torah doesn't explicitly say it, you don't need a kohen. So the Gemara says, 1 second, V'lav kol dechenu, but I don't understand, can we not make almost like a kal v'chomer? Uma halacha sevaram lekevesh doloma akva kapara ba'ya kahuna. They both say, if halacha l'maisa, the taking of the limbs to the top of the mizbeach rosa, which is what? It's not ma'akev kapara. But what does that mean? Remember again, when is carbonic kapara accomplished? When? Zrika. When do you burn the limbs? After zrika. So as I technically speaking, if you never burnt those limbs, right? Even though again it's usher to do that, but if you never did so, the carbon would still be totally fine. Yet what? Baya kahuna. Yet I will say the taking of those limbs has to be done by a kohen. Holachas dam de ma'akva kapar l'kol shekein. Then I will say again, certainly again the taking of the blood, right, from the Kabbalah to the Zrika. I will say, which again is ma'akiv. I will say, because remember, this is all before the sprinkling of the blood. This is an indispensable part of the blood process. Should certainly require a kohen. So the Gemara says, Itmar nami amar ula amar Abelazar holacha bizar psula. So we'll say ultimately again, Ula says the name of Abelazar, holacha bizar is pasul. That ultimately again, going ahead and if a non-kohen does holacha, it is pasul afilu Rabbi Shimon. And I will say that would be true even what? Even according to Rabbi Shimon. So we'll say, so bottom line, what is the halacha? Right? How do we paskin with this holacha? Is holacha an indispensable part or not? So we'll also listen to this. So the Gemara says, Kol hazvachim, I'm going to just quote you the Rambam over here. This is Parak Aleph Halacha Chaf Zayin. Kol hazvachim shekibel damam echad min apsulim la'avoda o sheholich asadan lemizbeach o shezarku b'mizbeach kilchaso nifsal hazevach. Rabbi say essentially again, anytime anyone other than a kosher kohen has done either Kabbalah, holacha, or zrika, the carbon is going to be pasul. So we'll say again, kibel akasha v'nasan lapasa v'lo halach ba'pasa. So we'll say, so bottom line, halacha l'maisa, the way we paskin is the only part of the sacrificial service that is kosher with a non-kohen is what? Shchita. Everything else must be done by a kohen. Kabbalah, holacha, zrika, and if it's not done by a kohen, then ultimately what? It will be possible. I will say, what about the Maaseh Itztava? What about if the Kohen goes ahead and receives the blood? Then what? Gives it to the Yisrael to hold. And the Yisrael doesn't bring close to the Mizbeach. He just stands there holding it. And then what? And then he goes, and then the Kohen gets it back and takes it. Also, the Ram discusses this. Ki belakasha v'nasan l'apasul v'loholach bo apasul and la'amad bimkomo. So say, listen to this. What happens again? The Kohen received the blood, gave it to the Yisrael. The Yisrael standing in place. Kohen gets it back from the Yisrael. What's the halacha rabosai? Yachzir l'kasher. As long as halacha l'maisi, the Yisrael did not move it closer to the Mizbeach, but the Yisrael just stood there, the carbon could still be kosher. Once the Kohen gets it back from the Yisrael, takes it towards the Mizbeach and sprinkles the blood there. So we'll say, so halacha l'maisa, and this is quite interesting, you could have no part of the avodah done, meaning Kabbalah, holacha, zrika, which we'll say also tells us we pass like the Rabban, not like Rabbi Shimon. Holacha is a form of avodah, and therefore all of it must be done by a Kohen. If the Yisrael held the blood for some amount of time in between the Kabbalah and the holacha, that does not invalidate the carbon, provided that he does not bring the blood any closer to the Mizbeach. So we'll say, good. We'll stop over here. We'll stop by the Bailu. I'll share with you a short idea on the parasha. If he moves it, it's problematic. If he moves it, it's problematic. Yes. So I will say there is this week we have the incredible privilege to read the double parshios of Achrei Mos and Kedoshim. So it's amazing about, of course, is we're speaking about the Chatas HaPnimis, right? The inner Chatas. That's this week's parsha. That's this week's parsha of Achrei Mos. So I'll say, so the pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem Moshe." This is in the beginning of Parshas Achrei Mos, Perek Tes Zayin, pasuk Beis. The pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem Moshe, Daber al Aaron Achicha va'al Yavo b'chol Isal Hakodesh mibeis laparoches." El Pnei HaKaporos Hashem Aaron Hashem Asher Ala Aaron V'lo Yamus Ki Ba'anam Irael HaKaporos. So we'll say the pasuk begins by Chadash Baruch Hu telling Moshe Rabbeinu to convey to Aaron, Al Yavo B'chol Isal HaKodesh. Right? Mibeis laparoches. Aaron can't come into the Kodesh HaKadoshim whenever he wants. Instead, he's only remember the Kohen is only permitted to come into the Kodesh HaKadoshim when, right? One time of the year during Yom Kippur. That's all. He can't come in at any other time. So we'll say, the tzaddik Reb Zusha of Anipoli says something so beautiful. He says, it's actually very profound. He says, he focuses on that phrase, V'al yavo b'chol is ala kodesh, which literally translates, he can't come whenever he wants to the Kodesh. So the Parsha Pshat is, Chadash Baruch Hu was telling Moshe to tell Aaron, even though you are the Kohen Gadol, you also have restricted access. You can come into the Beis HaMikdash whenever you want, but not into the Kodesh. Beis LaParoches means behind the curtain. You cannot come behind the curtain into the Kodesh whenever you want, only on Yom Kippur. Says the Rebbe so beautifully. There's a different message over here. Get ready for this. Ein lavo ela kodesh lefi itim. The message is, you can't come to the Kodesh at intervals. Lefi itim. In other words, we'll say, what does that mean? Itim yiskaber adam b'kedusha v'itim yechlash. You can't be on and off. You can't be on and off. It can't be that times you're Kaddish and times you're not Kaddish. El tzarech lihios b'kedusha tamid. The Jew has to have consistency in his kedusha. The Jew must be consistently Kaddish, beli hagorem shel ace, without being an ace Jew. I'll say, what is the Rebbe saying? So this is actually amazing. I think what the Rebbe is driving at is as follows. I will say, if you look at this phrase, va'al yavo b'chol ace, so the Rebbe says, this is very reminiscent of the section in Koheles. What's the section of Koheles? So we'll say, I think it's the third chapter of Koheles. Lakol zman va'is. Right, Shlomo Melech says, there's a time for everything. Shlomo says, right, ace for this, ace for that. There's a time for everything. So the Rebbe says as follows. What's the message of the pasuk? Al yavo bichol ace ala kodesh. Do not be a person who lives his Judaic life bichol ace. A time for this and a time for that, which represents what? A lack of consistency. Al yavo bichol ace ala kodesh. We'll say it's a dramatic play on words over here. The Rebbe says, Al yavo, do not be a person who encounters HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chol eis. B'chol eis doesn't mean all of the time. right? But rather, again, it means at times. At times. Do not be a person, ultimately, again, who sometimes engages in Kedusha, sometimes doesn't engage in Kedusha. Rather, what? B'chol zman, b'li gorim shal eis, el tzarech lios b'kedusha tamid. The Rebbe Zusha of Anipoli says that Rabbi said the most important thing in our Yiddishkeit is what? Is consistency, Rabbi say. There has to be consistency. Again, it's a little bit of a forced play on words because it doesn't read as well into the pasuk, but it's okay because the Rebbe says it. If the Rebbe says it, then I will say it is true. Va'al yavo b'chol eis, b'liya gorim shais. He understands b'chol eis, Rabbi say, it means like Shema Melech, la kozman ve'eis. Ace for this, ace for that, ace for this, ace for that. Sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm off, sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm plugged in, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm inspired, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm from, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm inspired, sometimes I'm not. That's not the way to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Va'al yavo b'chol eis ala kodesh. When connecting with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rabbi say, there has to be consistency. The Rebbe says, without consistency, there's no relationship. And Rabbi say, it's true, because it's not just through a din with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but rather it's a din line for both sides. Imagine this for a moment. We spoke about this before. Imagine you go home, you say to your wife, listen, I've got a new plan. Here's the deal. I love you very much. Sundays, Tuesdays, Fridays, and alternate Shabbosos, I am going to be a plugged-in husband. I'm going to be the man. The other days, I need me time. I need me time. You know, I'm sorry, I can't be present every single day. That's a lot, right? You want me to be a good husband every day? Right? You want me to be a good father every day? Again, I think it's very generous. Sundays, Tuesdays, Fridays, alternate Shabbosos, I'm the man. That other time, I'm going to plug out. Let's say, again, or unplug, right? I'm going to be there for me. Let's say, we obviously know, we smirk, but I will say, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Either you're all in, or you're not. In life relationships, if you want them to work, you have to be all in. The Ribono Shel Olam says what you do in your marriage and what you're going to do with your children, which means if you want to be successful in those relationships, you have to be all in. I ask the same thing from you as well. Al yavo b'chol eis ala kodesh. Don't bring ace to the kodesh. Don't ultimately, again, ace for this, a time for this, a time for that. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, if you want to cultivate a meaningful relationship with me, then what? Then ultimately, again, you have to be consistent. Your Kedusha has to be consistent. And I will say, what I would suggest, however, is a little bit of a deviation on the Rebbe. Because if you look at the Pasuk Rebbe, so the Rebbe says, El tzarech lios b'kedusha tamid. A person has to be in a state of Kedusha consistently. Now, for Rabbi Zusha Poli, that's absolutely fine. He could deliver on that. I can't deliver on that. So perhaps to be in a constant state of Kedusha, so perhaps Rabbi said there's a little bit of a variation. Because the Pasuk itself says, Va'al yavo b'chol eis ala kodesh mi beis leparoches. You see Rabbi saying, a Jew can't live mi beis leparoches. A Jew can't live in the Kodesh HaKadoshim all of the time. Can't live in the Kodesh HaKadoshim all of the time. So perhaps what we could take from Zusha Anipoli is a little bit of different. You see, the Rebbe, I think, is describing a state of what we call consistency of results. The Rebbe says a Jew has to live his life el tzarech lios b'kedusha tamid. A Jew has to live in a state of kedusha constantly and consistently. There has to be consistency of results. I would suggest that perhaps no. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not require a consistency of results for one simple reason. Why? Because I can't deliver on a consistency of results. I cannot live a life of consistency of results of Kedusha. No one can. Even the Kohen Gadol can't live inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Rabbi say, if I can't deliver consistency of results, there is something I can deliver, which is what? Consistency of effort. I can deliver on consistency of effort. And I think that's all the Ribono Shel Olam wants of us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not need consistency of results, but He does need consistency of effort. See, Rabbi say, every single day when I put my head on the pillow, what I need to be able to tell myself at the end of the day is what? Two simple words, which are, I tried. I tried. I tried doesn't mean I was successful. I tried doesn't mean even that I tried the hardest I possibly could, but I know that I tried. I know that I put in effort. And I think ultimately, again, that's what the Rebbe is really teaching us. See, Rabbi, the worst thing in life is lack of consistency. It's bad in marriage, it's bad with kids, and it's bad in my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If I'm sometimes in, sometimes out, Rabbi say that never works. Itim yiskaber adam b'kedusha v'itim yechlash ela tzarich lihiyos b'kedusha tamid b'li hagorim shal eis va'al yavo b'chol eis. Don't come with your ace approach. Sometimes I'm in, sometimes I'm out. Ela kodesh. That doesn't work. There has to be consistency. So the Rebbe sets the bar very high, and the Rebbe says, I want consistency of results. I think that a person should live tzarich liyos b'kedusha tamid. I would humbly suggest that we can move the bar just a wee bit lower. I never move the bar lower. But I think in this case we can move the bar just a little bit lower. That it's not consistency in results, it's just consistency in effort. All that Kadosh Baruch Hu Rabbi wants of us is that every single day, as we come to the Kodesh, that ultimately, again, we try. There can't be a day without trying. There can't be a day without effort. There can't be a day where I'm not propelling myself just a little bit. And as long as there is consistency in effort, even if there's not consistency in results, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is happy with that relationship because he knows that I'm engaged. We'll say that's our goal, to create consistency and effort each and every day to try, and not just to try, but each and every day to try just a bit more than the day before.